All right, so what phrases do you know that use the word core? Right? So we talk about being uh, bad to the core or hardcore or it reached my core or at my core, I believe this, right? So working with physiologically and anatomically the core, I want to show one thing on the screen, not that, not that, all my passwords. But here we go. So when we think of core, we have to think of and be willing to work not just the front abdominals. And even in the, if we think about the abdominals, there's the superficial, like the rectus abdominis, but there's the obliques on the side, there's the deep psoas. But we have to work the back muscles as well. We have to work the hips, the glutes, the hamstrings, right? All of this is part of core. So when we work today in the core, if at any point, I'll give modifications for things, but if at any point your low back bothers you, two things, either quit and do something previous to what we just did, or really engage the exhale. So really engage the exhale, meaning drop the pelvic floor up, upstroke the navel up and in, and draw your hip pointers towards one another. Really engage on the exhale. Okay, let's start on our backs. And before we start getting into the intense stuff, just reach your legs long, your arms overhead. Invoke the big yawn and pandiculate like your kitty cat or your dog. Yeah, just really see if you can create a little bit more space. If you just joined in, hopefully you have a strap with you. You don't need blocks today, but a strap. And then once you have your legs extended long, arms overhead, let's take both heels over to the right and hands over to the right. If that feels awkward in your shoulders, just bend your elbows and take your hands behind your head. Slide left elbow back. But now opening left side body. Getting some space between the ribs, the intercostals. And then just slide through center, take both heels, both feet over to the left and slide right elbow back, or arms over to the left. And then release back to center. And bend through your knees now. Take the soles of your feet to the floor. Arms can be anywhere. And we'll do a few rounds of pelvic tilting. And just really invite the long exhale and take all your air. Press all your air out of your body on your exhale. So pelvic floor up, navel strokes up and in, and hip pointers towards one another. So just some long, slow pelvic tilts with emphasis on the exhale. Not in a hurry. Notice if you're in a hurry. Sometimes I think when we have that in a hurry feeling, we're trying to actually get through what we're doing, right? I mean, get through what we're doing, sort of bypass it in some way. We're going to be very engaged in all this work today. Great, coming back to center, and now on your next inhale, as you draw pubic bone away from navel, just press up into a bridge with the arms behind the head. And then exhale, take everything back down. So call this a rolling bridge or a cascading bridge. Just coming into feeling what's up with our spine today, our low back. So just a couple of rolling bridges. The next time you set your hips back down on the floor, we'll stay there for a breath. And then arms can be alongside your body, or you could have the robot arms with the upper arm pressing into the floor, elbows pressing into the floor. You decide. But we're going to just press into the feet, lift the hips, and then lower the hips, not quite touch the floor, press up again. So now working the glutes. You'll feel your glutes working, the big buttock muscles. Probably the front of the thighs a bit as well. So pressing up. See if you can keep your knees tracking straight ahead so the legs stay parallel to one another and the knees don't splay out to the side. So you can keep your knees tracking straight ahead. Okay, so then from here, take a few more before you come to resting on your hips again. And now stack your knees over your hips, lower legs parallel to each other and to the floor. Now draw your navel up and in, draw your pelvic floor up, really get that engagement. And then with each exhale, you'll touch your heel to the floor, alternating right and left, back and forth. Keep that nice engagement. And the slower we go, the more muscular efficiency or more muscular awareness we have to have. It's pretty easy to go fast with things and have momentum. But when we slow it down, the muscular engagement is very different. Okay, so do about 2 more on each side. You can rest at any point. Okay, and then we'll just keep the legs lifted, recommit to pressing low back into the floor, drawing navel up and in, hip pointers towards one another, pelvic floor up, and now touch the toes. So point your toes, touch them to the floor and alternate back and forth, touching toes. You can come back to this. You could be doing these every day if you felt inspired by this, and you could work your way up from, say, 20 touches to whatever, 100 touches. Great. Once you've done an even number, though, we'll take soles of the feet to the floor. Lift your hips slightly and take your hands, palms down right underneath your buttocks. And then stretch your legs long. So you've got a little lift in the front of the thigh, the hip flexor here, good. And just take a breath here. Take a breath here. Great. Now keep your hands where they are, if that's okay. You don't have to have your hands here. You could have your hands beside your body, but this is a little more supportive to have the hands here. Great. Bend your knees and draw your knees into your chest. Then reach your legs straight up to the ceiling and slowly lower your legs. Slowly lower your legs. And wherever you come to, you might not lower them all the way to the floor, but wherever you start to really first to quiver, then you're going to draw your knees into your chest, reach your legs up to the ceiling, lower, So you want to feel your lower abdominals working, but you don't have to go all the way to the floor. Pay attention to any pain in your low back. Now, if you're able to lower all the way to the floor and hover, then the next time you hover, just do a little flutter kick, bend the knees, bring your legs up towards the ceiling, lower the legs. You can do the flutter kick even if you're not right off the floor. Just flutter your legs, then bend your knees back into the chest, reach up towards the ceiling, lower. So wherever you kind of can control the movement, then you'll do a little flutter kick like you're swimming in the pool, and then knees in and up. Okay, and let's do a few more, maybe 2 to 6 more here. Slowly lowering, flutter, then bring the knees in. Now, option is to just lower one leg at a time. Other leg can stay up in the air. Another option is to have one foot on the floor, lower one leg, draw it in, repeat. Okay, so any of this is fine. Good. And then let's everybody come back to the floor. Reach your hands out away from your hips, from underneath your hips. Palms up, arms wide, legs long. Just take a resting breath or a sort of a counter breath here. Okay, then we'll bend the knees again, take the soles of the feet to the floor. And now you're going to just, tuck your chin into your chest, and you're going to do a curl up. So a little bit of a old-fashioned curl up. And as you roll up, you slide your fingertips towards your heels, touch your heels with your fingertips, and then slide your hands back as you unfurl back to the floor. So chin into chest, you're going to come up, slide your fingertips, touch your heels to your fingertips toward your heels, and then come back down. Okay, so a regular old sort of sit up, but you're sliding, hands are on the floor, you slide your fingertips, touch your heels, and then release back down. All right, so maybe anywhere from 6 to 12 more of those. Sliding your hands across the floor and sliding them back, okay? We'll meet on our backs once you've done your favorite number. Okay, and then stretch your legs long again. And here you could take your one hand and just make some circles on just a circular motion on your low belly, upper belly. So underneath the rib basket, rib cage, and down towards the pubic bone. Just, again, we did this when we did the fascial system work, really just working in, breaking up any adhesions in the fascia. And then both hands on top of the hip flexors, circling. It's really, you don't have to press hard. It's just working any adhesions in the fascial system. Okay, then we're going to roll to one side. And I'm going to take my forearm parallel to the short edge of the mat. I'm going to stack my knees, and I'm going to have my knees, my legs in a position. The angle is pretty obtuse, right? So I don't want my knees coming right out of my hips. I want my back, the soles of my feet lined up with my sacrum. Soles of the feet lined up with my sacrum. Great. Then here, I'm going to extend the top leg out. And I'm going to slowly raise my leg up and lower it down. And my foot, my toes are pointed back towards my shins. And it's like I'm wiping my window clean, right, with the sole of my foot. And the slower you go, the more you have to be really contracting and working the muscles, right? So really think about going kind of slow here. Great. Then maybe 4 to 8 more. And we'll bring the feet back together, knees back together. Keep the same body position. Now, you really want to press into your forearm so that your shoulder doesn't come up into your ear. Now, let your side waist relax. Now, shoulder comes up into ear, like you're letting your side body just sling down to the floor. And then lift your side waist away from the floor as you press into your forearm. And relax, back down. And then press again. Okay. Now, if you would like to, the next time you press up, lift your hips off the floor. So lower legs are pressing into the floor and side waist is pulling up away from the floor. And then you can lower back down. So take a few more rounds, either just letting your body slingshot down to the floor and lifting back up, or when you come to the lifted position, raise your hips up as well. The knees are bent. If you wanted it to be even more fierce, you'd straighten your legs. Good. And release. We'll go to the other side. We'll start with the same way we started on the other side. So forearm parallel to short edge of mat. Stack your knees and your feet and line your soles of your feet up with your sacrum. Then top leg comes out and you want toes pointed back towards shins. And you want your foot to be to really pull both the pinky toe side and the big toe side back so that your foot isn't everting, turning out to the side. So we're really using the hip flexor here, big glute muscles. Okay, so wiping the surface with our sole of the foot. That's my image of the position of the foot. And again, slowly, and maybe you can sense one side is a little bit weaker than the other or stronger than the other, sensing the imbalances in our bodies. Great. Then after 2 to 8 more, we'll stack the knees once again. Okay. And then you allow your side waist to just fall down towards the floor. Shoulder comes up into ear, and then you press into your forearm and lift your side waist away from the floor. Okay. That's variation number 1. That's variation number 1. You can press and lift and then lift hips. Then lower hips. Allow yourself to sling down. Lift, press, lift hips. Then lower back down. Good. So you decide what works, what feels good for you. These always come back to these, working up to a different variation, right? And then from here, after your next couple, we'll then come right down to our belly. Now, with your hands in the little pillow and your forehead on your hands, really draw your pubic bone into the floor, draw your tailbone down towards your heels, and see if you can actually pull your navel away from the floor. So you're resting forehead on your hand pillow, and you've got this really strong action in your abdominals, your glutes are engaged, okay? Then release your hands to your sides, and we have forehead on the floor. On your next inhale, you'll lift your left leg and your right arm. Keep the back of your neck long, and then exhale, set that down, set everything down. Inhale, lift right leg, sweep left arm forward. Exhale, bring everything back to center. Keep that engagement. Keep pressing your pubic bone into the floor, lifting navel away from the floor and drawing tailbone down towards your heels as you go back and forth, lifting opposite arm to opposite leg. You don't have to lift your head very far. We're working back muscles here, lower back muscles. So keep the back of your neck long as you go back and forth, side to side. Back and forth, side to side. And maybe 2 to 6 more rounds. Just be kind. Don't overdo it. Feel that balance between effort and ease. And then after your next rotation, bring your hands underneath your low ribs, press yourself up to table. Okay, so knees under hips, take a look back at your feet, line your feet up right behind your knees. We'll be on our wrists here a fair amount, so if for this cat cow, these sets of cat cows, you can just come down to your forearms if you want. And then take a few rounds of cat cow. Again, emphasizing the exhale. So on your exhale, really draw the navel up and in, draw the hip pointers towards one another, draw the pelvic floor up. Great, okay. And then if you're on your forearms, pop up to your hands. Okay, next inhale, reach the right arm out, left leg. Exhale, you can set everything back onto the floor. Go to the opposite side. Variation on the exhale is to bring your elbow to your knee, together underneath your body, contracting, pulling navel in, pelvic floor up, and then inhale, reach arm and leg long. Exhale, hand and knee down to the floor. So your choice, you can just do the extension part, but on that exhale, as you drop everything back down, contract the belly, pull the pelvic floor up, okay? Inhale, reach opposite arm, opposite leg. Exhale, take hand and leg back, knee back down to the floor, or bring the elbow and the knee together. Inhale, reach everything long. Exhale, hand and knee back to the floor. Take a few rounds here. Take a few rounds here, whatever variation feels right for you. Make sure you do an even number on both sides. And we'll meet in table. We'll meet in table. Great. So now from this table, we're going to drop elbows to the floor. The hips are high. And take a few rounds of cat-cow with your elbows down on the floor. So I have my whole forearms on the floor, elbows underneath shoulders or thereabouts. Great. Now I'm going to slide my knees back. Okay, couple options. You can keep your forearms parallel to one another, or you can tuck in a little closer and interlace your hands, interlace fingers. this might be the better starting position with the fingers interlaced, okay? And then pressing into your forearms so that you lift your upper back away from the floor, turn toes under and come into forearm plank. Press through your heels. If you're gonna default to either having the hips a little bit higher or sagging, have the hips a little bit higher. Legs are engaged here. Draw navel up and in. Good. Then drop knees to the floor. Separate your hands and drop your hips back towards your heels as you slide your arms back towards child's pose. Arms extended out into the front of your space. Beautiful. Then inhale, come back up to table. Exhale, turn your toes under, bring your hands forward, hover the knees, press back, and extend the legs up in downward facing dog. Can you engage the space where your hamstring meets your lower butt muscles? So engaging the back of the leg. Good. Then inhale, come back down to table. Okay, so now we're in table, reach your left hand forward slightly and pick up your right foot and take it out behind you like a little bit of a kickstand. And then roll onto your left hand, reach your right leg long. So this is a variation of side plank. So I've got my left leg back behind me, lower leg back behind me like a little kickstand. And then we can pulse the top leg. Again, working in the hip flexor, pulsing the top leg up and down. Keep pressing firmly into the planted hand, standing hand, so that the shoulder stays away from the ear. Keep drawing the lower side ribs up, lower side waist up. And let's do 4 more of these pulsing with the leg. And then let's hold the last lift. Hold the last lift. Draw your navel up and in, draw the side waist up, bend through the top leg and take the top foot with the top hand. Relax your head, keep the back of your neck long. Okay, then folding back over to table. Drop forearms to the floor, reach hips back towards heels, sliding hands back with you. Child's pose with hands extended out in front of you. Inhale, come up to cow. Exhale, turn toes under, hover knees, press up and back, downward facing dog. Draw your hamstrings up into the lower butt muscles. This was last week's class. Draw the hamstring up, up, up. So you're trying to lengthen the back of your leg up towards your buttocks, the outer leg up towards your buttocks. Then inhale, come back to cow. Great, and then relax, we'll take the other side. So my back will be towards you in this. So I bring my forearm across, I bring my right hand forward. I take my right leg out like a kickstand out to the right, and then I extend my left leg long. And then I'm gonna pulse through my left leg. Keeping the back of my neck long. Now for me, I can really feel that I have a little bit of weakness in my left leg. It doesn't go as easy as the right side did for me. I really feel the difference on this side. So, you know, balance is important. And so I maybe want to work this side a little bit more than the other side. Last time I lift, I'm going to stay there, maybe fatigue a little bit before I bend through my top knee, take the top foot with my top hand, in sort of a Ardha Chandrasana kind of shape. Then I'll release, come back to table, drop my forearms to the floor. If this is where I rest and stay, that's fine. If you can get your hips back to your heels, come all the way back, resting forehead to the floor. And then inhale, come back up to table. Okay, now options for full plank are just to bring the knees back a bit and reach your upper body forward so that you're staring down right between your hands. Draw the shoulder blades down and in slightly and draw your navel up and in. So I'm resting on my knees. This is totally fine. If that feels okay, turn toes under and press up into plank. Keep the hips lifted. Hips lifted. For 3, 2, 1, and knees to the floor if they're not already there. Reach the hips back. Let the elbows come to the floor. Slide the hands back. Resting in child's pose. So when we work with core, if we can start with the basics that are pretty much linear, right? So not a lot of rotational stuff yet. We'll do a little bit at the end of class. But this is a great way to start because it just helps us build that core strength. So plank is one of the best poses, best exercises for building core because abdominals are engaged, hips are engaged, back's engaged. Okay, so let's bring hands forward again. Knees can be back again. And bring yourself forward. You could even play with just a little bend in the arms if you wanted to work some arm strength, but focus today is core. So turn toes under if that feels okay for you. Lift hips, press the floor away, draw your navel up and in. And good. Option number 2, you could widen your stance a little bit. Bring your right hand to touch your left shoulder, then back to the floor. Bring your left hand to touch your right shoulder, back to the floor. Okay, so many options. You're in the plank, you're on your knees in plank, or you're alternating, touching right and left shoulder. And everyone drop to knees, forearms, slide hips back, resting your head on the floor if that's available for you. Let your back spread wide. Let your back spread wide here. Relaxing that muscular tension, the muscular contraction in your back. Okay. And then we'll inhale back to table. Okay. Hands a little bit forward. Okay. More than one option here. So if you're able to make that high plank happen, turn toes under, press up into plank again, turn both heels to the left. You're on your left arm and now you're in side plank. You can keep your hand on your hip or reach the top arm up. And if side plank feels okay, let your side waist move towards the floor and then lift it back up. Lift the hips back up. Now, option number 2 is to come back into table, turn back into that first side plank we did with the leg, one top leg extended out and back leg back, and then try a little hip dip and lift from that position. Okay, so you decide, don't overdo it. Come back to regular plank when you're ready, knees to the floor, and we'll take the other side. Okay, so whatever you did on the first side, if you came lifting into high plank and you went left, now we put heels to the right. My feet are separated. I stack over my right hand. Maybe I take the dips, maybe I just stack my arms. If I have my right leg down, left leg long, I can work the dipping of my hips or my side waist and then back up. I'll return to full plank or to my knees, drop elbows, forearms to the floor, and slide back into child's pose. Good work, everyone. Good work. Okay, now let's inhale, come up onto our knees and reach the arms overhead. And now on your exhale, as you fold, draw your navel up and in, draw your pelvic floor up. Really, really, really accentuate the exhale as you tuck your hands to the back of your sacrum or the back of your lower back and come into a fold. Inhale, sweep everything up. And exhale, you're hinging at the waist. You're drawing navel up and in. You're drawing pelvic floor up. You're drawing hip pointers together as you fold. Beautiful. Just do a couple more of those really slowly, really feeling the engagement. You're on your knees. You're inhaling, sweeping everything up. Okay. And then after you come to your last one, reach the hands forward, come back into table, turn toes under, press yourself up to downward facing dog. Good, then walk your feet up to your hands, deep bend in the knees, hips back, draw the pelvic floor up. Feel like you could squeeze your outer hips into your midline and come into Utkatasana with hands forward. Good, then slowly press up to standing. Slowly press up to standing, might be a little dizzy, take your time. And now from standing Tadasana, take your feet wide. Not to be too wide, so we'll work the obliques a little bit more. So inhale, right arm comes up and over, and left hand slides down your left leg. Inhale, come back up, and exhale, release to the opposite side. So as you stretch one, you're contracting the other side of the obliques there. Inhale, sweep up, and exhale. Slide your hand down your opposite leg, opposite arm up and over, and really upstroke the navel, pull the pelvic floor up, pull hip pointers together. Take just a couple more. Nice and slow. And then once you've done an even number on both sides, come back to center. Take your stance really wide. Hands to hips. Turn your right foot out. Turn your left heel out. Bend through your front knee. Warm the leg up. And then find yourself in Warrior Two. Warrior Two. Now in your Warrior Two, draw the pelvic floor up, draw the navel up and in, draw the hip pointers together. Really feel the stability, the core helping to really contribute to the stability of this pose. Inhale, turn front palm, flip it, go forward. Exhale, come back, Exalted Warrior. So working these side obliques here again. Relax your face. Relax your face. Inhale, come back into warrior two. Exhale, find the stability. Then inhale, straighten your front leg. Reach your front arm up, 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 up. Side ribs lead as you fold into Trikonasana. Hinging into Trikonasana. Hand on ankle, shin, or thigh. Find the strength here, the stability. So gather pelvic floor up, navel back and in. Now take both arms out in front like you're holding a big beach ball. Core is working here. The whole core is working. Good. Inhale as you sweep the arms back to T, bend through the front knee, come back to warrior two. Exhale, solid, stable position. Then inhale, sweep arms overhead, straighten front leg, turn both feet parallel to one another, and exhale, hands through heart center. Let's try that on the other side. Nice job. So now left foot out, right heel out. Just begin by warming up the front leg, the front knee, checking your stance, making sure knees over ankle. And then inhale, sweep the arms out to T and bend through the front leg. Draw pelvic floor up, draw navel up and in. Hip pointers towards one another. Get that really solid core going. Good. And we inhale, sweep the front palm forward, palm up, and exhale, come back, exalted warrior. Inhale, sweep forward again, coming back into warrior two. Exhale, find your really solid core. And then as you inhale, straighten the front leg, the hips come back and the side waist moves forward, and you hinge right into triangle. Take a few rounds of breath here in your triangle. And then gather pelvic floor, navel up and in, really solid in the core, hands out in front to your front space like you're holding a big beach ball. Inhale, sweep arms open to T, bend through front leg. Exhale, solid. Inhale, straighten front leg, both legs, both feet facing parallel to one another, and short edge of mat. And exhale, hands through heart center. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's try it one more time on each side. And you might go a little bit, we'll go a little bit faster this time, okay? So right foot out, left heel out. Inhale, come down into your warrior two. Exhale, find good grounding, good strength. Inhale, reach front palm. Exhale, sweep back, exalted warrior. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, ground, get core strong. Inhale, straighten front leg, reach front ribs, tilting into Trikonasana. Exhale, find your core stability. And then bring hands in front like you're holding a big beach ball. Next inhale, sweep back into warrior two. Exhale, find your real grounded core. Inhale, straighten both legs, reach hands overhead. Turn both feet to be parallel. Rest hands at heart center, down to your sides. Turn the other foot out. Back heel out. Inhale. Exhale, find your core. Inhale, reach forward. Exhale, exalted warrior. Inhale, back to warrior two. Exhale, really strong in the core. Inhale as you straighten your front leg, sweep the ribs forward. Tilt into Trikonasana. Exhale, gather pelvic floor, core. Then find a big beach ball in front of you. Inhale, sweeping back, warrior two. Exhale, gather the core. Inhale, straighten both legs, turn both feet to be parallel, hands overhead. And exhale, hands through heart center. Now just rest here. Pull your legs together isometrically. Draw your pelvic floor up, draw your navel up and in. Close your eyes, just feel how stable you are when you engage the core. Okay, so now quick couple of rotational things. So on your next inhale, reach up through your crown, and on your exhale, fold. Bend in the knees, any amount. Okay, bend through your right knee very generously. Walk your hands over to the right. Left hand stays on the floor, right hand on your hip. Use the obliques on the left side. Draw them in as you straighten right leg any amount and twist towards the right. You could stack shoulders if you want. And then bend through right leg again as you come back down. You'll walk your hands through center. Bend left knee really generously. Bring hands over to the left. Right hand stays on the floor, left hand on your hip. Feel like you're using the right obliques. Pull them in towards midline as you twist, straightening the left leg any amount and stacking your shoulders if that feels good in your body. You can leave your hand on your hip as well. Good. Then release. Bending your knees, come through to center, and then from the center, hands right underneath your chest, walk your hands forward. Your feet are spread nice and wide, and now you'll be in a really big, wide plank position. Gather pelvic floor up, navel up and in. Good. And anybody wants to try tapping shoulders, you can tap shoulders. Good. Then we'll walk the hands back. Hands underneath the chest, heel-toeing feet in until we can come into a squat here. Then from your squat, you'll drop onto your hips or your butt. And then back nice and straight. So you might have your hands back here. Okay, so back, a little bit of arch in the low back. Great, now from here, if you'd like to, you could take hands behind legs and come into a modification of Navasana boat. Draw your navel in. Draw the pelvic floor up. Okay, you could do one leg at a time with hands behind back. Okay. And then if you've got the back of your legs, we'll slowly lower down to the floor. Slowly lower down to the floor. Okay, good. We're on the floor again, right? Stretch your legs long. Stretch your arms overhead. Take a few rounds of breath. And then come back to that position of comfort with the knees bent. And give your fascial system another little scrub down. So just rolling through, circling on the belly, the whole belly and down between the hip pointers. Okay. And then you can take your fingers and sort of play a wild piano all over your upper belly. Middle of the belly down, between the hip pointers, above the pubic bone. Good. Just great. now we go to a rotational movement with using our core. Okay, so it's a bit more intense. So let's bring hands behind the head, interlacing hands behind your head. And we'll draw the left knee in towards the belly and just rotate towards the left knee. I'm not necessarily going to touch it with my right elbow, but I'm just going to bring some rotation into this. And then I come back to the floor, right? Elbows wide, soles of both feet on the floor. Then I draw my right knee into towards my chest, and I lift head and shoulders and rotate towards, twist towards my right knee. Okay, so I'm going to go back and forth with that, right? And if you want it to be a little fiercer, you can keep your legs lifted as you, I guess we commonly call this bicycling. So I take the left leg long, bring left elbow towards right knee, then back. And I go back and forth with this a few times. So find an appropriate number for you. And do one more on each side and then come back to position of comfort. From here now, arms out to a T, stacking knees over your hips, okay? So now we're gonna just let the knees fall only as far to the side as we can control. We're not gonna let gravity take our knees all the way to the floor. And then we'll inhale back to center. And then we let knees come to the other side. So opposite obliques, you can feel if you put your hand on your sideways, opposite sideways to the direction the knees are going, you can feel your obliques engaging here as you go back and forth. Okay, so this is it. Just go as far as you feel that quiver. Come back to center. If you want it to be fiercer, you can extend the top leg long. When you get over to the side, then come back to center. So a little bit more, just the fact that we're working with rotation, it's a little bit more, let's be more advanced, more challenging. So we did all the more linear stuff first, and now finishing with some of this rotational work, okay? You could also have your legs long, bring them in, then long again. Couch is in the way. Okay, so many options. Once you've done an even number on both sides, come back to position of comfort. So feet, soles of feet on the floor. Rest your knees together here. Rest your knees together. Great. Then take your feet towards one another. Let your knees fall out like a Baddha Konasana. Let your back arch away from the floor. And then on your next exhale, draw your low back into the floor and bring your knees together. Inhale, back arches away from floor as you let knees fall open in Baddha Konasana. Exhale, just pull your low back down towards the floor, upstroke the navel and bring your knees together. Okay, just one more. Now from here, this time as we stack knees over hips, we'll let gravity take our knees all the way to the floor. So we'll twist in one direction. This is a passive twist. We're just letting gravity drop us into the twist. Then you inhale, top leg comes up first. Both knees together as you let your knees fall to the other side, passive twist on the other side. Great, then back to center. And now anything else you need, some variation of happy baby might feel nice, but otherwise take legs long. That feels okay. Stretching legs long in Shavasana. Variation would be soles of feet to the floor, knees resting in. Lower legs up on a piece of furniture or up the wall. Find all your accoutrements, all the things you need to have Shavasana be very relaxing, total letting go. So cover up with a blanket, put your socks on. And come into final resting Shavasana. And in particular, take your attention to the areas that we concentrated on today. So can you have a soft belly here? So I think we've been sold a little bit of a bill of goods about having to always have the abdomen contracting. We don't want that because we don't want to be overly tight. That overly tight equates to weakness. So can you let your belly be soft here? Let go of any holding around your hips, your legs, your belly. So you could really extend your exhale and let go of any holding there. And then soften the muscles on your face. The corners of your eyes, the space between your eyes. Soften your mouth, your lips, your teeth, your tongue. Tongue rests in the bottom palate. Relax all the way back to the root of your tongue. And just place a hand on your belly. If it works for you, wherever you are, put a hand on your belly and just feel the in-breath, the out-breath, the softness in your belly. You could take the other hand to your heart, offering gratitude to anyone who makes practice possible for you. And to yourself, showing up. To your practice. Now, when you come out, if that's your choice, you can stay in Shavasana as long as you want, but when you come out, whether you rock up or you roll to one side, really feel the engagement in all those cues we were just working. So navel upstrokes, pull the pelvic floor up, engage just enough to come back up to a seat, if that's your choice. If you would rather just stay on your back, you can do that. But feel the body working efficiently to have you come back up. And then find a comfortable seat. Bring hands in front of the heart in a gesture of prayer that works for you. We'll take one Om together. We'll begin with inhale through the nostril, open mouth, exhale, let everything go. And then we'll inhale to Om. Namaste.